dropped that orange. Is it your fault you dropped the orange? Or is it the orange's fault you dropped the orange? We don't need any more gun control laws. We need society to grow up and realize that guns aren't the problem because it's not guns that kill people, it's people who kill people.
What we need to do is to fix up the laws to make them better, not more laws. People usually use firearms for sportsmen, hunters, home defense, and self defense. For an example, in the article, U.S. gun owners outnumbered hunters 5 to 1 in 2011. According to Gallup poll in 2011, 47% of all Americans reported ownership of a gun in their home or on the property. Gallup estimated that 34% of Americans aged 18 and over personally own a gun. Gun control is the set of laws or policies that regulate the manufacture, sale, transfer, possession, modification, or use firearms by civilians.
The Second Amendment states a well regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What this means is that we have the right to buy and possess a firearm or firearms. And if we feel the government is being too powerful or trying to take over its people and steer away from how this government is now, we have the right to fight back without punishment or persecution. They're really punishing the good law abiding citizens instead of the criminals. What this means is the government will take away our guns and let the criminals walk away scot free. Punishing the wrong group of people. Guns will be harder for people to get who can't get a firearm. What are they supposed to do when the government goes south? Can they fight back? No, they really can't, because what are they gonna have to fight back with? A frying pan? They would come in and basically the government would just mow us down like an overgrown lawn.
There are cases of self defense that are the intruder or attacker's fault, and then there's cases where it's the homeowner and defendant's fault. It's all about how the solution plays out and it's dealt with. The article for every gun used in self defense, six or more used to commit a crime. Christopher and Grimer, a journalist, said in cases of a robbery, who did not try to stop the crime lost property nearly 85% of the time. Victims who attacked the intruders or threatened them with a gun had a better outcome, losing property 39% of the time. There goes to show that people do not do anything or call the police in a robbery had a lot of time lost than people who stopped the robbery with a firearm.
In one of the articles, uh, in one of the articles, CDC study, use of firearm for self-defense is important crime deterrent, written by Alyssa Tabiern,
Yeah.
states most felons report obtaining the majority of their firearms from informal sources, adds the adds the report. While the stolen guns account for only a small percentage of the guns used convicted by criminals, the Democrats and liberals are trying to infringe upon our constitutional right. Should look more at the majority of where the criminals. Shut up. The majority of the criminals get their guns instead of punishing the law-abiding citizens.
In the article for every gun used in self defense, six or more used to commit a crime. Henaway, a professor at the Harwood School for Public Health and co author Sarah J. Sunick, Department of Economics and University of Vienna found that child in the article for every gun used in self-defense, six or more used to commit a crime. Henaway, a professor at the Harwood School of Public Health, and co-author Sarah J. Sunick, Department of Economics and University of Vermont, found the likelihood of an injury when there is a self-defense gun used 10.9% was basically identical to the likelihood of injury when the victim took no action at all, 11%. This goes to tell us that there is a difference between when firearms are used to stop a crime versus when someone doesn't. The risk of an injury is higher than someone who doesn't take action with the firearm than if a person takes an action with the firearm. In the article, for every gun used in self-defense, six or more used to commit a crime, written by Christopher Igaham, a journalist. Self-defense is another ambitious term, and whether one is defend or perpetrator may defend or a perpetrator may defend a perspective. Henaway and Senlick said in the latest research, self-defense is when you are being threatened and you take action to either defuse the situation or whether it has to go further and get more extreme. That's it.
People break TABK is the rules for guns. The main simple rules to follow: T. Treat every firearm as if it's loaded. A. Always keep your finger out of the trigger guard unless ready to shoot. B. Be sure of your target and what's in front and what's beyond. K. Keep your muzzle in a safe direction at all times. Everyone who takes hunter safety or other firearm safety courses is taught this and is required to memorize the rules in order to pass the course.
The article U.S. gun owners outnumber hunters by 5 to 1 in 2011, written by Patrick Burke, in a national report. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services 13.7 million individuals over the age of 16 self-identify as hunters, and that 12.7 million use guns while hunting. This explains that there is only 1 million people who use other means of tool to hunt with other than firearms. In this same article, U.S. owners outnumber hunters 5 to 1 in 2011, written by Patrick Burke, states approximately 52% of all hunters went target shooting in 2011, and 22% went to shooting ranges. The government.
If not for hunters, more animals' population would be rising like crazy, more car accidents, more sickness would also be out of control because of all the dead animals.
I believe in gun safety and increased gun safety. There are many products that come out on the market that have the ability to harm or kill, which basically these days you can kill someone with really anything. So that argument's a little invalid. Most products that can cause injury are removed from the market because the manufacturers of that product can be held liable for that harm. So if they're going through and doing that, why do we still have cars, basically just automobiles in general? because they can still kill very easily, a lot easier than, for example, lawn darts or something along those lines. For a family, fun filled time, but multiple people were severely hurt, so the manufacturer withdrew the game. Vehicles in general have been modified and improved over time to increase safety, but are still extremely dangerous. And kind of going along the lines with this, for example, I don't really need any more explanation on it than just this, but 9/11, back in 2001. Introduced driver's education to keep our roads safer. Just because you go through driver's ed doesn't mean that there aren't people still getting killed or horribly injured on the road. It's still a very abundant thing. People are killed and injured by guns every day. And so are people from car accidents, stabbings, bombings, domestic violence, etc. As any other manufacturer, and the 2005 Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act should be repealed. Guns should not be treated as everything else because of the fact that not everything is the same. There are guns out there that have finger/handprint ID system that allows the gun only to be fired when the matching print is on there. And with this, there can be some, actually quite a few withdrawals for it. For example, if you're trying out a buddy's gun and he has that, you're not able to shoot it. Will it require batteries? And if so, if the batteries go dead, will that firearm still be able to be in use? Buying guns. If someone goes through and wants to buy a gun and they want to try the firearm out first before they buy it, they would have to go through and have their handprint done. So how is that going to work? Handing down family guns. It's a lot of gun owners do this, but if one person has the print ID, how is the rest of the family going to have that? Hunting. Some people borrow guns from other people for hunting. Not everyone has a firearm to go hunt with. Home invasion. Well, home invasion and then murder and, for example, like cutting off a hand. If someone goes through and has that print ID and they get killed, what's stopping someone from going through, cutting off their hand, and using their handprint to still be able to fire that gun? We need absolute error-free registration for guns. First of all, nothing is ever error-free no matter what it is. We need to look at appropriate penalties for gun owners whose guns cause harm or death. It is not the gun that caused the damage, it's the people behind the guns that are causing the damage. For God's sake, we register our dogs, register your guns. We already by law register our guns when we go through the purchasing process, so this argument is invalid. Families who have gun-related accidents that lead to harm or death should pay increased taxes for the rest of their lives to compensate for the loss or harm. This doesn't make any sense at all because there are still ways you can break into a gun safe no matter how well constructed it is. And on top of that, even if they still take all the necessary gun safety precautions, there are still ways that firearm accident will occur.
People found of domestic abuse should absolutely lose their privilege to a gun. I can understand this 100% because even though they have other means of killing the victim, if they don't have a firearm at their disposal, they will resort to using that. Stores should be completed to offer free, meaningful gun safety classes. I can agree with this statement also. A person with a mental illness should be barred from being able to have possession of a firearm. With this, I also agree it's very reasonable as well as the others.
How to protect public safety. The United States needs to do is take all the homeless veterans and police officers because we all know that there's a ton of them. Not everyone is able to come back and have some of the luxuries the rest of us are able to. Give them guns and put them on patrol in schools, banks, street, high crime area, etc. And we would have a lot less casualties and little to no school shootings or bank robberies, and just it would mitigate the crime tremendously.
How the government should focus on where the criminals are getting their guns, not on hunters and law following citizens. Criminals get most of their guns from overseas black market, buddies, arm dealers, and other criminals' gangs, and store robbery. The public above would help out a lot on this. Other way to getting guns out of the wrong hands is if the police departments would set up raids of known gangs to take them down and seize their firearms and other weapons. The amount of firearms that are in the wrong hands could help out the military budget a decent percent because it's less guns they have to buy, which allow all the government to pay for more equipment.